forum on team cohesion, that we wanted to talk again a little bit about adjusting to new normal. And what I mean by that, so it's not necessarily first wave for the challenges we were facing then, but I'm just really mindful that listening to conversations last time in our meeting, but also when talking to other teams and other members of staff, that it feels like now we are a little bit kind of not post-COVID, but I guess the kind of heightened stress has decreased a little bit, but that now teams really feel the struggle between feeling really exhausted and tired and then trying to get back to some sort of normal service provision, but also feeling a lot of pressure, catching up on wait lists and all the rest of it. So that's why I thought it might be useful to kind of reflect a little bit on that today, to see where you feel you're at, where you feel your teams are at, that, reflecting on that there's still some themes which were relevant the first time around when we talked about adjusting to the new normal might be still relevant today, but also acknowledging that there are possibly new challenges we are all facing. Anna, can you share your screen, because I can't see it at the moment? Super. Because then I will just briefly go through the outline of today, and then I think we can already go into the first breakout room as well. Super. Excellent. So yeah, just to really say, that is, the topic for today. And as usual, we will have 2 breakout rooms or 2 opportunities for you guys to reflect and share and discuss where you feel you and your teams are at. And then, of course, a whole group discussion at the end. And what Anna and I really would like today is, because I'm mindful that I've said this now for a couple of times in our meetings, towards the end, really have some time to get feedback from you as well, what you think would be useful moving forward. We have done now, 3 or 4 sessions, just 1 session every other week, and we were just wondering if that works for you, but also if you have any suggestions for future topics, because Anna and I are very mindful, just because we feel something might be relevant, it might not necessarily fit with your expectations or what you would like. And then also you may notice at the end, the tea break, for people who attended the last Wellbeing Lead Forum, I guess a bit of trying breaks in between our that we are having more breaks throughout the day. That's why we felt today, we would like time as well that everyone to kind of catch into. Okay, so Anna, if you don't mind putting the next slide up, and then the questions into the chat, that it doesn't get lost throughout the breakout rooms.
Yep.
For the first discussion is how you feel your team has coped with the new normal over the past few weeks. And as I said, what I mean by that is now coming out of this kind of more COVID-focused phase, and now trying to go back to some sort of service as normal, but of course acknowledging it before COVID. And also, what do you feel are the challenges you and your team at the moment with regards to that? So these are the 2 questions for the first.
Okay.
Any questions? Yeah, I can just see. I think someone put up their hand.
It's Ruth McNamara. The sound is really picking up. It's quite hard to hear you.
So is it better if I take the mask off?
Not your voice. It's just breaking up. So it's actually quite hard to follow what you've been saying and what you're asking us to do.
Oh, I'm really sorry. Can you hear me better without the mask on?
Yeah, I don't think it's the mask. I think it's the connection.
Oh, I'm really sorry. There's unfortunately nothing I can do. I'm sitting in the same room as I'm usually in.
I'm also having the same problem, but I put in the chat, if you try and put your captions on, the writing should come up at the bottom. It won't be 100% amazing, but it will give you a gist of what's being said as well.
Anna, could you just repeat maybe then what the task is for the first breakout room, because people might be able to hear you more clearly than me?
Yeah, so I'm just going to copy and paste the questions in the chat. So it's firstly just having a little discussion about how your team has coped with this new normal in the past few weeks, returning to a sort of post-COVID situation, and what's changed and what challenges does this bring to you and your team at the present. So I'll just put that in the chat now. And then I'll start putting everyone in breakout rooms first. So this will be for 10 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to start the breakout rooms now.
Anna, does it work?
Yeah, people are disappearing.
Super, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can hear you all right, but I thought it was my connection. I could also feel you were breaking up.
Sorry, there's just one not in the breakout room.
Yeah, I'm not sure why. I can't see her in where I was trying to assign participants. Sorry, Joe. It says you're in room 5, but okay.
Oh, there's some as well.
I'm just gonna move them in different rooms.
Sorry, guys, we're just trying to add you to the other breakout rooms.
I can't add Joe to a room, it seems.
Joe, do you want to unmute yourself and maybe switch your video on, and then we have a discussion? Sorry about that. Sorry, Joe, are you there?
Yeah, maybe she isn't, and that's why I can't assign her.
So does it look as if she's in one of the breakout rooms? Now it's just
it looks. Oh, yeah, it looks like as if she's in room 3.
Super.
But now she's gone from the main.
So you can hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you, but as you were speaking, there were some patches where it was breaking up.
Okay, so hopefully we won't have that problem when everyone is coming back, but I'm really mindful, and if we do and they can only hear you, then I'm afraid you may have to talk through the slides. Is that okay?
Yeah, if that persists, but for now you sound okay. There's no.
Excellent. And if it hopefully it will go continue like this. So I just do the first slide, and then theme 2 and you do theme 2 and you do theme 1 and the last one as discussed. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Perfect. Just in case there are any challenges, I guess, as I said, the key thing is that people understand we're not talking about the new normal as it was during the first wave, but that some themes are still relevant possibly now, but it's also thinking about the new challenges, trying to go back to some sort of service as normal. But
Yeah, I think at the beginning, as you were speaking, we could understand you. It was just later on that it was
good.
big.
Okay, so do you reckon people got that's what we want to reflect? Fantastic, excellent. Because otherwise I feel the questions might not make sense. Let's think. And then if we just then talk for 10 minutes max till past, and then we have, still the second breakout room, we have enough time then to do it as we had planned.
Yeah. So when the 20 past.
So if we get them back by 20 past,
Yeah.
and I just switch my video off now and mute myself, and then come back just a minute before, something like that.
Yeah.
Excellent. See you soon.
See you.
Hello, I've just noticed, did you just join? I'm so sorry, I can't see your name properly.
Sorry, I'm trying to join on my laptop instead of the phone, but I'll carry on my phone. Sorry.
No, don't worry. Are you in one of the breakout rooms?
Yeah, I'm in the breakout
Super.
room.
Just
Yeah.
that you're not on your own. Okay, see you soon.
All right, thanks.
So I might just leave my mask off if that's okay, and then see. I don't think it makes a huge difference, but
Okay, I'm gonna stop the breakout rooms now.
fantastic. Oh.
Just wait until everyone returns.
Oh, sorry. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Oh.
Anna, is everyone back? I unfortunately can't see.
I think so.
Super, excellent. Can people hear me better now? If you just not either yes or no, can people hear me better now?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we'll just keep my mask off for the time being and hope the internet connection will hold where I am. So as I said, Anna and I thought it might be useful to talk a little bit about reflecting with you guys where you feel you and your teams are at the moment, being yet again in another transition period coming off, the kind of COVID phase, trying to go back to service normal, but that looking differently to how it was before COVID. And to be fair, a lot of talk was, of course, in the first wave or, over the summer last year, how teams or we all can adjust to a new normal. And, what Anna and I are talking about today is based on a webinar Steve Jeffries, he's a clinical psychologist, did in the summer of 2020. And basically the key things or key themes which came out of their discussion and that webinar was that they asked healthcare professionals what they found difficult to adjust to and what would be useful or help to maintain staff well-being. And I guess this is something which is still relevant or really important for us, of course, today. But also, rather than thinking about,
Sorry,
adjusting
I think
to,
some
PPE,
people don't
all the rest of it.
some people
Can
might
people
not be
switch their,
muted.
yeah, can people switch their microphones off, please? Thank you. That's fantastic. So, as I said, rather than just thinking about, the themes or the challenges, I think we thought it would be really useful to specifically think about as well the relations between individuals or within teams and maybe the culture or the systems we find ourselves in, because this is something at the moment people report more on or teams become more aware of that, this is of course also really important or has a huge impact on how we manage at the moment or how we might be feeling when at work. So some of those themes Anna and I will go through in a moment. We felt we're of course coming out from the first wave, but we feel this is still relevant now, but it's also then thinking about additional challenges you feel you and your teams are facing if they are. Anna, do you want to talk a bit about the first theme?
Yeah. Well, so the first theme that came out from this discussion was putting myself first, or this dilemma of putting myself first, which in a time of crisis, it may have, originally in the first wave and second wave, it may have felt like it wasn't the right thing to do. Because it's a crisis, I need to go the extra mile, I need to take that extra step to fight this crisis, and sometimes our environment or the feedback we got or frontline staff got was that this was very much appreciated and important and encouraged and it's sometimes taking that extra mile meant that people weren't taking their breaks or didn't take their annual leave, didn't have the downtime that they would otherwise have had, which is, of course, very important in order to sustain energy. And coming into the present, it seems that we have adjusted, or lots of teams and team members have adjusted to taking shorter breaks, not taking as much, because they've gotten into the routine of not taking as many breaks, when in fact this is very important to be able to deliver a safe and effective service. So this is one of the dilemmas that came up.
Absolutely. And I guess then thank you, Anna. And I guess then thinking to how it might be relevant for you and your teams today, we were wondering, that sense of guilt, a lot of members of staff have talked about, I think we have talked in this forum about as well, is still relevant or present now. And I guess most of us feeling really exhausted and tired because of, the past 18 months we have had. Now possibly finding this even more a struggle, thinking, well, I really need to prioritize, or we do need to look after ourselves. We need to prioritize self-care, but that then easily feels like conflicting with our day-to-day chores, or when we're at work and all the commitments or things we are meant to be doing. So yeah, that's why we felt it's possibly still really relevant at the moment, and something we really need to look at. Anna, do you mind going to the next slide? Thank you. Again, this, theme, feeling overwhelmed by change. This is nothing, new to you. I'm sure this is something we have talked a lot about, over the past year or 18 months, that instructions and guidance were changing all the time. But even now, these are things which are still impacting on our, day-to-day life, either at work or in our personal life. And, there's still a lot of confusion or uncertainty around how things are or will be. What people have also commented on, that the more information we actually get, which on the one hand, of course, is useful so that we can make informed choices, but actually people also having this notion that, the more information they got, especially from different resources or sources, it felt then there were really mixed messages as well, or conflicting messages. And again, this is something, having spoken to different teams recently or individual members of staff, something we felt seems still to be there, and then making this decision, what do we do about that? Do we cut ourselves up from it? Do we not listen to news anymore? Do we not check our emails anymore? But then it might mean we miss information, or which of course wouldn't be helpful. But if we do immerse ourselves in it, it can leave us feeling possibly even more confused or more exhausted. So again, having this dilemma, what to do and how to manage that moving forward. Because I guess this is something which is not going to change, in the very near future. We will always have this sense of things can change very quickly, guidance changing all the time, even if I appreciate it possibly feels a little bit less than it was, last year at this time. But also then I guess thinking back to how we used to run our service and how we run our services at the moment, and thinking, that might be conflicting in terms of want to prioritize, if that makes sense. Then Anna, if you want to go into the last thing.
Yeah, so that leads us on to the next theme of establishing boundaries of our usual work and adjusting to change. So this can be things like the dilemma of, do I stick to what I normally do, or do I adjust to a new normal but then risk being out of my comfort zone, or not all needs being met as I expect it to be. For example, things like new systems, like getting onto telemed appointments, more of those, or over the video assessments instead of in person. That comes with new challenges, like patients seeing into your homes, or you seeing into the patient's homes, not being in the same room, being worried that you might not spot something that you would if it was an in-person interaction. And then lots of these changes we're keeping as we go forward. So of course this can be positive, but also has its own challenges. So yeah, this is the last theme, and it goes on in the future work as well.
Thank you, Anna. And again, that's what we thought. That's why it still feels relevant at the moment. So, you know, almost now trying to go back to how we were before, doing more face-to-face again. But then I know, you know, that was really difficult initially. You know, there needed to be clinical rationale for when we saw patients face-to-face. Services different a little bit in their approaches. You know, some services, you know, going more quickly back to face-to-face, other services less so. And just noticing that and, you know, making sense of it and, you know, trying to manage. And I'm sure you all have preferred ways of working or what you think works for you and your teams, and that might not necessarily correspond with, you know, what is expected of us all at the moment. Or maybe some people had hoped more that we would go back to even more so how we worked before. I also know in terms of, for example, having visitors in the hospital or not, you know, there are lots of ideas or opinions around that as well. And of course, that will also impact on, you know, the care we provide to the patients, to our service users, and, you know, them being able to bring in family members for support or not, and all the rest of it. So that's why we felt, you know, those themes still feel relevant now, but we appreciate they might have changed slightly in nature, or additional challenges might be there as well. We thought before we give you guys basically some ideas of maybe how to manage those or some suggestions, we want actually if it would be useful to go into the second breakout room first and just think a little bit about what you think your teams need at the moment to manage these challenges of, you know, where you guys are at the new normal, trying to go back to service as it used to be, trying to get on top of waiting lists or other demands whilst we still all feel really exhausted and knackered. And also thinking a little bit about the resources you would find useful to support your anything specifically. And then when we come back as a big group, and I can talk a little bit more about, a couple of suggestions, and we can reflect maybe as a big group, what you guys think would be useful, and also get an idea of, or if people feel able to share where you feel your team's at. I hope that is okay. Are there any questions? And if you put those questions into the chat again. And then I don't know, are there any questions before we go into the second breakout? Otherwise, I think Anna's just creating the rooms again, and we see you guys back in 10 minutes. Okay.
Just starting the rooms now.
Super.
Okay.
I still can see one person. Sorry, I can't see your first name. I'm so sorry. Or no, everyone's gone now. Excellent.
Okay. Yeah, because I couldn't. I was worried.
No worries. It's really difficult for me. I can't see people's first names, only the surnames.
Oh.
So that's what's difficult for me to address people. I know a few people, of course, but anyway, shall we come back at 22 maybe?
Yeah.
Super. See you in a moment.
See you.
just give them maybe a couple of more minutes. I think we started a little bit later, and then we'll see. And what I do, I will just briefly go through those strategies and then open up the discussion quite quickly, and then possibly do the feedback and everything all in all, and then just try to finish 5 minutes earlier for a tea break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we left 15 minutes for future group discussions. We don't need 15 minutes for that. I think we'll be okay.
Depends on, yeah, what people want to talk about. But yeah, I'm very mindful. I will try to. You're still there?
Yeah, you're breaking up a bit again.
Oh, sorry. Let's hope. So again, if this is tricky, then yeah, if it really doesn't work, you could just read through the slides. But I will try and see.
Yeah, I'll let you know if we can't.
Yeah. Super. Do you want to bring them back now?
Okay.
Obviously, the patients are sicker. Permanent, yeah.
Feels silly, doesn't it? And doing something proactive might be an early help assessment, or a phone call, or a conversation. It doesn't all have to be a huge thing, but finding out why something has gone wrong, or why somebody is upset, or why they haven't got hope today. If we can find out why, then we might prevent it happening again tomorrow. So, just think about that kind of being as proactive as you possibly can be. Early help applies to any problem that a family cannot deal with on their own. It applies to all children, all young people, any form of need, and it requires agency.
Sorry, guys. Just to say, we are back in the big group.
I think everyone's back now.
So if I didn't want to cut anyone off, I could just hear someone talking. So sorry if you guys came back midway through a conversation. Just before we open it out for a big group discussion, and if there's anything anyone would like to give feedback about or share with the wider group, we just wanted to highlight a couple of things. Again, some of the things I'm sure you're well aware of and we have discussed previously, but maybe some ways of how to manage these dilemmas we mentioned before the second breakout. So of course, it's really important, to voice the struggles we are facing and trying to normalize them, that it doesn't mean, we're not doing good enough jobs, even if we may left feeling like that, or, if that's how we feel as a team. And particularly having in mind what we talked in our last forum about the team cohesion, and that's actually really important, to foster a culture where we can talk, or hopefully feel that people can talk about struggles they are facing. And I guess linking to the next point, that it's important to think about the connection in our teams and how we can foster that. Using anchors, what we have talked about, before, when we worked from home and trying to set ourselves up and, still being boundaried and all the rest of it, that this is possibly still really relevant now as well, how we can do that. So trying to balance all the different demands being put on us at the moment, and still attending to the basics as well and the core needs, as it was important, of course, last year, that is still really important now. And I guess, coming back to our brief overview at the beginning, that if we can, maybe finishing 5 minutes early, for example, to really have, a bit of a time to have a brief break before you guys go off into your next commitment. And of course, the need for self-permission and self-compassion. Again, this is something we have talked about, many times before. And also, I guess following on from the last discussion, that we really need to role model that as well. And, basically share with others, or show others that it is really, really important. If we think about how to manage the current struggles. Are there any questions to anything I've or we have talked about so far? I can't see any hands up, so I assume it is okay, but I do wonder if there's anyone who would like to share maybe a little bit from their group discussion, or how you feel you're managing at the moment in your teams, or where your teams are at?
We talked a little bit about how to manage situations when different members of the team, particularly the senior team, are wanting to sort of move forward at a faster pace than other members of the team, and how you manage that.
Fantastic.
That's quite difficult.
No, I appreciate that. And was there anything particularly you guys found or discussed which might be useful with that, for that?
No, not really. We just talked about it and tried to work out how you could manage that, but I'm not sure we came up with an answer.
Okay. Do you feel some of those suggestions on the slide might be useful? I'm just wondering, as a starting point, even being able to voice that, or this notion, it feels like there's a different pool in the team, some members wanting to go a faster pace than others. Is this something you feel would be possible?
I think we're working quite hard at establishing connections between the team, especially across different sites, and trying to rebuild that, which we felt like we'd lost, that team working across sites. Although we have team huddles, it's still difficult. Yeah. And differences between the way the different sites work, teams on different sites work. I think that trying to encourage voicing struggles and people to actually say what they're thinking rather than just moaning about it later would be helpful. Some of it's about changing the ethos and how we do things.
Absolutely. And that's why, if you remember on one of the first slides, really thinking about the systems, or as you said, the ethos, maybe the culture in our teams as well. It's not just all about the past year or the 18 months and our experience with that. Of course, depending on how we were in our teams before, this is, where we now need to pick up from, I suppose. So that makes sense. Thank you very much for sharing that. Any other reflections or any other points or comments people wanted to make?
Yeah, I raised that when you asked the question about resources, is that I think the department, I work in MaxFax, and so it's quite a dated area. And I think one of the things from a wellbeing point of view that myself and my colleagues have noticed is that we all have to find surgeries that we can have our lunch in. So we're all sort of like only two in a room, and it has quite a detrimental effect on everyone because we don't get to, that's the only time we can get and have lunch together. And, we're kind of like thinking, when will there be a normal that we can have more than two people in the room? Because, in the clinic, you can have 5 people, but they still deem that our lunch area is only 2. So it's quite hard. And I think we're all feeling that as well. So, I don't know, there's no money in the trust. They can't house us anywhere else because we're expanding. But it's becoming quite a problem now for us.
It's really interesting. Thank you very much for sharing that, because this is something which comes up again and again and again, and possibly something, I have to admit, I hadn't really thought about before. I know, for example, in Pete's, we always tied on rooms and clinic space and all the rest of it, but because there weren't any restrictions, you could make do that, and now because it's so different, it really limits, us, and especially coming back to then, wanting to connect again, or wanting also to take breaks and make this meaningful. It is really difficult. The only thing, of course, to think about, if there's no space as such provided, if this is something you could do outside. I don't know, it's possibly a little bit easier at the moment to meet outside or have lunch outside. I know a lot of people have talked about walking lunches or walking meetings and all the rest of it whilst the weather isn't too bad. But I appreciate that might not work for everyone and every team.
Yeah, we have thought about having lunch outside, but because our clinics start dead on time and the consultants get a bit cross if we're not there on time, we kind of just end up, and some of them have hot meals that need a microwave. It just consumes the lunch time. So where some try to go out to get that fresh air because we've got no windows. And I think also now it's been said that if anybody has got hot food, we have to try and find a room that has a window to get rid of the smell. So, sometimes we are sort of all staggered all over the place. And, that's the one time that for wellbeing that we could sit and, you know, just say to each other, how's your morning being, or how's your afternoon, and that sort of thing, and we're really missing that. So,
I bet that sounds complicated. Again, the only other thing I was wondering, if people have their, you know, their own lunches, and, you know, of course that's important as well, if it would be easier then if everyone just has their lunch and then you guys basically come back, you know, even if it's a lunchtime meeting or lunchtime, around that time, but everyone had their food and you then do something. I don't know if that would free people up a little bit.
Yeah, possibly. I certainly will share that idea with them tomorrow. Yeah, see if that helps. Yeah.
That makes sense. Any other suggestions? Thank you very much for sharing that.
We thought we might do a social event outdoors, outside of work time, for similar kind of reasons, because we you know, sometimes working from home, different sites, etc. I mean, we are fortunate in that we have a large room that we can sit together to eat, but yeah, we thought we would do that.
Fantastic. That's great. Any other final comments? I don't want to, of course, you know, properly end the conversation, but I'm mindful of time, and I really wanted to get some feedback today about, you know, our sessions moving forward and what you feel would be useful. And I thought it's easier to touch base in the meeting rather than asking people to send us emails afterwards. But of course, that is much welcomed as well. Unless there are any other burning comments or reflections, is it okay to think a little bit about our sessions moving forward and what you guys would find useful? I take the silence as a yes, or I can see that someone has raised their hand. Sorry.
Hi, it's Susan. No, I was just wondering, because we talked about it in one of our breakout rooms, about tools on how to help teams to come together. I know I missed the last one. You may have discussed that, but I did write to you guys because as a team we are struggling to get together. So I wondered if you had any recommended tools on team building.
Gosh, that is a big topic with regards to team building. Have you been able to look at the recording from our session from last time? Because the reason I'm saying this, there were a lot of really creative ways at the moment as well to just make a start. But of course, we can always think, you know, if you're interested in more specific tools with regards to team building or exercises, yeah. I'm just mindful that I'm not possibly able to cover this all in the remaining time. Would you mind emailing us on the Wellbeing email address, and then we can get back to you with further resources or sorts, if that's okay?
Yeah, I can do that, and I'll try to listen to the previous meeting just to see if I can get something. Thank you.
They were really creative ideas, and a little bit along the lines of what people have already said today as well, just trying to, what are, you know, the restrictions, or, you know, what is actually possible and practical for people, and see what you think, if there's anything useful in the last discussion, but we can also then provide you with more information if that's useful.
Okay, I'll do that. Thanks.
I guess leading on from that, as I said, what Anna and I wanted to ask you guys today is thinking a little bit about how you feel these sessions are working for you at the moment, and maybe suggestions on future topics as well, because we are very mindful that we are coming up with this, the topics, and I'm not sure if this always fits with your expectations. So I don't know, the comment just made, if this is something, team building, if this would be a good topic for the next Wellbeing Forum. So really up to you guys. What do you think would be useful?
Can I just say that during the last 6 months, I have struggled to come to many of these things because the work has been too busy. And just when, and I felt a little bit like we were being bombarded with, there's this on, there's that on, and you can look at the recordings, but never had time. And that it's only now that I feel like that I'm starting to have the time to actually to think about it more, and to take something for myself, but also to give something to the rest of the team, even though I've tried during the last 6 months, 12 months. So I think that I would certainly keen to continue with wellbeing forums and I like the group discussion aspect. And so what we did today, I felt was a nice balance between some presentation and some discussion. I thought that worked really, really well. I suppose that going forward, I feel like that there is that it's nice to know when they're on, so you can plan them into your calendar. And I guess it's difficult when people work part-time or whatever, to whether you want to change the days around so that they're not always on the same day to help other people. But I think that more than once a week is a bit of a struggle, more topics. So I think that having a balance between once a week, once a fortnight, you have more ability to try and get there.
Super. Thank you very much for that feedback. And just maybe from our point of view, just to kind of maybe notice the change, I think when it was 2 of our colleagues running these sessions, I think that's why they were sometimes on a Tuesday and on a Thursday, and they tried to do one earlier in the day and one later in the day. But because it's at the moment mainly me running these, and also given, you know, what other people have said about time pressures and all the rest of it, that's why we thought if we keep one session every other week, and what Anna and I are trying to do at the moment, we alternate. So today was the early one at 9. So in 2 weeks' time, we will try to do a lunchtime one, either at 12 or at 1. And then the 2 weeks after that, we will go back to an early one at 9. So hopefully, at least this way, we try to be a little bit flexible, acknowledging that, you know, for some people it might be easier to attend early in the morning, and for some people it might be easier to do it at lunchtime. Unfortunately, because I'm only part-time at the moment, I can't really change the day much. That's why it's on a Thursday, and at least, yeah, that's why we appreciate, at least with the recordings, it is there. But one of the other ideas I know has been discussed, I think, before you guys gave feedback about, I think in the session with Gwyn in February, was if we should have a pre-recorded session and then having more time in these meetings like today for you guys then to reflect and share. And Anna and I are a little bit in 2 minds about that. So that's why this comment just now was really useful, because we thought, how realistic is it actually that people can look, you know, or watch a recording before then this session? At least this is an hour of protected time. So as long as you guys feel like you have enough time to reflect and share your experiences, and then come back as a big group, and that we have, you know, those 10 minutes of themed, you know, presentation, if you guys feel that is okay for the time being, then, you know, we are very happy to continue as it is. And as I said, we will try to get a little bit more organized, that, you know, you guys know in advance. It definitely will be on Thursdays moving forward. Next time will be at a lunchtime, and then we go back to an early slot again. And I also really appreciate what you said about possibly there is so much stuff flying around and what people can look at, and all sorts of tools, resources, all the rest of it. And if you guys now more feel you have time to look at that and, you know, have a bit of headspace, then, you know, of course, this is something we can think about moving forward as well. I'm really mindful, Anna and I are very conscious, you know, we're also happy to, of course, repeat themes or topics which were discussed some time ago, but we don't want you guys to feel like, gosh, we're now just repeating what has always, you know, been discussed. That's why, for example, today we try to combine something which possibly was discussed before, but with a different perspective, or thinking what is relevant at this moment in time. So that's why I hope, you know, it felt useful. Yeah, so that's basically feedback from me, or you know, our rationale behind it. Anything else? I'm mindful that we're already going into your kind of tea break, and yeah, kind of running out a little bit of time, but any other final comments or any other suggestions? Can people still hear me? Excellent, super. Because otherwise I would suggest then that we are calling it a day for today, and hopefully you have a little bit of a break before your next commitment. It was really nice to see so many of you, and I hope we see many of you again in 2 weeks' time. If there are any further suggestions on topics, please do email us. We are more than happy to be flexible, and, you know, we really want this to be useful to you or what you are interested in. So just let us know, yeah, in advance what you think would be useful, and then we will try to accommodate. Otherwise, though, as usual, there will be a plan B, and we will come up with something ourselves. I hope that is okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anna, do you have to head off? I can't remember. Or are you able to stay on for a little bit?
I'm okay for a few minutes. I will have a meeting, but it's okay if I'm a bit late.
Super. Shall we then just quickly wait, and then I guess you could also stop the recording if you wanted to.
Yeah.